GWM. Go with more. 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 GWM, 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 go with more.
What is up, everybody? It's also a really nice place just to hang out, relax. Here you've got campsites. You can hang out by the river. If you had friends, family, you can bring them here. You could also, got great campsites, pitch a tent, campfire, be roasting s'mores, marshmallows, all that stuff, hanging out under these beautifully clear, nice, clean air. Beautifully clear skies, nice, clean air. You can get a great view of the starry sky at night. So just an awesome place to be in general. But I want to get more into the challenges we're going to be looking at today, because we're here with the GWM POER 2.4T Off-Road Edition. Now, this is a continuation of kind of the classic look and classic style of prior POERs, but we've upgraded the performance, given it more power, and this vehicle here, GWM, has done a great job of combining cutting-edge tech, power and performance, high load capacities, and even great fuel consumption, especially when it comes to pick up trucks. So I want to start you guys off with the exterior here, because you can see, just looking from right here, it's a beautiful vehicle, especially this nice kind of dark red, this maroon. It has a very strong and powerful feeling to it, especially when you start off with the front of the vehicle, because this kind of makes your first impression when you look at a vehicle. It's the first thing you see, and this grille right here carries a lot of power, makes a bold impression. It's also got the GWM in the middle, kind of with the air vent in the middle, but it's kind of a cool design. Kept it simple though, nice and clean. I like it. It's low key, but it's also tough. It's also powerful and bold. And you see right here, we've got full metal front and rear bumpers, so that also really adds to the aesthetic of it, really gives it that rugged look. But at the same time, the utility of it is also amazing, because that is going to provide a lot of protection for your vehicle. Because let's face it, when you're out off-roading, you could come across all sorts of scenarios. There might be some kinds of impacts, so those full metal front and rear bumpers are going to provide a lot of protection for you. And I like the hood. The body lines on this thing as well, you can see how the hood kind of raises in the middle. It kind of gives it that muscly look, kind of conveys more of that powerful sense of the vehicle to it. And the headlights as well. I'm going to bring you over to these headlights. So these headlights, nice and clean, a very modern look, but these headlights are very practical as well. You're going to have great illumination, whether you be in very dark areas, driving at night, especially if you're off-road, there are no lights on the side of the road. So this is really going to light up your environment. This is going to be very important when you're in complex environments, and it's really going to increase your awareness of where you are and where your vehicle is at all times, which is key, especially when you're in, slightly more dangerous, more off-road environments. So as we come around even more, you see the body lines of this vehicle, very sleek, very pretty. You come over here, we've got the 18-inch tires right here. This thing, all-terrain, going to take you really wherever you like, and you have a lot of options when it comes to tires as well to suit your environment and suit what you're looking to do with it. And then you see the wheel covers right here kind of flare out as well. And I really like that you've got kind of the exposed bolts right here, so that also gives it a more rugged look. And just practically speaking, it's also going to help because off-road environments, you've got gravel, you've got dirt, you've got mud, you've got all sorts of debris. It's also going to protect your vehicle in that sense as well. So we go more through the vehicle. You see we got this baby right here. You've got the water snorkel. So this is going to be a big deal if you're ever wading through water. With this baby attached right here, your vehicle can go down through depths of up to 700 millimeters, or about 70 centimeters. So this is going to protect your engine a lot, because everybody knows you don't want water in your engine. So the water is nice and sealed up. It's protected from any external water flow. And this thing right here, this water snorkel, is going to allow you to go to depths of 70 centimeters. So that is really important, especially if you're crossing through rivers, crossing through streams, you know, wherever you may be taking this vehicle. And you see right here, we also have the side step, metal side steps, factory installed. So this vehicle is not a short vehicle. I mean, you know, I am 175 centimeters tall, about 5'9", and you can see this vehicle is taller than me. So it really dwarfs you to stand next to it. So a thing like this, the side step, this is going to be, you know, make getting in the vehicle a lot easier, especially because we have high ground clearance. And, you know, that's important when you're off-roading. You don't want your vehicle, the bottom of it, to be dragging. So that's why they got this side step in here. Also factory installed, complete with the vehicle. This is also going to provide some extra protection for the entire body of the vehicle. And, you know, down here we also have great shocks, great suspension system. I want to take you guys around to the back as well. We can check out kind of the truck bed, the tailgate. This is what I was talking. This is the rear metal bumper right here. And you see, we got this tailgate right here. This thing's really cool. So really easy to use. Open it just like that. And heck, I could hop on this truck because, you know, I'm a tough guy. But, you know, if you got friends, family with you, you got children, you also got that side step. You can pull out just like that. You just hop up there, 1 foot. Makes getting in your vehicle really easy. And this truck right here, the truck bed, it comes with a lining right here that is going to protect against the truck bed from getting dirty, water. It's also going to protect against scraping, because who knows what you're hauling back here, tools, things that are related to your hobbies. You know, you could put like a kayak back here or something. That's going to prevent any scratching when you're pulling it in, or when you're putting it in, or when you're pulling it out. And you can see that, like, I could just kind of like sit back here. You can see there is a lot of room in the back of this truck bed. So this thing is 1.52 meters by 1.52 meters. So that is a lot of space. It's also 54 centimeters deep. So you're really getting a lot of load space capacity for whatever you want to put back here. So let me hop out of this truck bed and see what, just like this. Pull it up, slide it in, throw it back up. That's it. And now let me take you guys back around to the front of this vehicle. It's also got another cool feature that I want to show you. This thing is the T-Max winch. So right here, we've got the T-Max winch. This thing is going to be helpful in getting you out of all sorts of sticky situations. So this thing is capable of pulling 9,500 pounds. It has a towing force of 9,500 pounds. That is over 4 tons. So it could be that you're driving your vehicle, you're doing something crazy with it, you get it stuck in the mud, you get it stuck in a pit, you pull out this winch, throw it around a tree, you're going to be able to get your vehicle out of there. I was talking with an actual owner of a GWM 2.4T POER, and they were telling me about how they have used this winch numerous times to get themselves out of situations. Also, this winch is going to be great for rescuing other vehicles as well. So if you like going off-roading with your friends, they've got off-road vehicles as well. Maybe they get stuck. Use that T-Max winch, pull them right out. So very cool. I also want to talk to you guys about what is under the hood, the engine. So in here, we call this baby the GWM POER 2.4T Off-Road Edition. Why is it the 2.4T? Because this thing's got a 2.4 liter turbocharged diesel engine. Now that packs a lot of power. We're talking about max power of 135 kilowatts. It's also going to provide you torque of 480 Newton meters, and it can provide that torque at low speeds as well, which is very important because, you know, if you're driving up steep slopes or you're driving in very rugged conditions, you need that consistent, stable, high torque, but at low speeds. So this is going to be instrumental in getting you where you want to go in a stable and consistent fashion. And yeah, a lot of power there. This thing is also coupled with a great transmission. A 9-speed automatic transmission works beautifully in conjunction with this engine right here to provide you with the ultimate driving experience. So this 9-speed automatic transmission, it has a great what we call low gear large speed ratio, which means, like I was talking about before, even if your speed is relatively low, we're talking about 1,500 RPMs, you can be outputting maximum torque, 480 Newton meters, while at low speed. So that's going to be very important when you're in rugged environments. And now if you're cruising at high speeds, it also has an ultra wide gear ratio, which means you're cruising at high speeds, but the switch between gears, the gearbox, it's going to operate very smoothly, very consistently, going to provide a lot of stability for your vehicle and make your ride just much smoother overall. This transmission also has a max torque capacity, what it is able to handle, what it is able to withstand of 750 Newton meters. So that is a very strong, very stable, very durable transmission. So yeah, that T-Max winch is going to help you out in a lot of tricky situations, a lot of predicaments. I want to show you guys though what is under the hood, because this thing is a lot of fun. So let's pop this hood real quick. Let's see what we're working with under here. There it is. Flip that switch. Come around here, and now, so we are looking at our GWM POER 2.4T Off-Road Edition. Why do they call it the 2.4T? Because right here, you see you've got the 2.4 liter turbocharged diesel engine. Now, this thing is awesome. This thing packs a punch. Great performance. You're looking at a max power output of 135 kilowatts. You've also got 480 Newton meters of maximum torque. So that is really going to be crucial when you are in very precarious, very rugged conditions, uneven surfaces, and all that. So like this torque, 480 Newton meters, that can be achieved with just 1,500 RPMs. So you are maintaining very high, very consistent torque, even at low speeds. And now that is going to be crucial when it comes to things like going up steep slopes, when it comes to things like traversing all sorts of rugged conditions. You need that consistent power output. So this thing, we've also got a transmission in here as well, the 9-speed automatic transmission. This thing works flawlessly, seamlessly, just magically with this engine right here as well to provide a very good, fully integrated system. So this 9-speed automatic transmission, we are looking at features like a very good large or low gear, large speed ratio, which means, like I was saying before, that even at low speeds, we are getting that maximum torque, 480 Newton meters. If you're driving at high speeds, you have the ultra wide gear ratio, which means that when you're cruising at high speeds, the switch between gears is going to be very smooth, going to be very fluent. It's going to ensure a stable and smooth ride even at high speeds. This transmission, it also has great ability to adapt to any kind of conditions, any kind of terrains. So that means that when you are, going through very kind of interesting areas, this transmission is going to be capable of taking on forces, taking on loads of 750 Newton meters of torque. So that is going to be essential. But I mean, I can sit here and talk about this all day. Let's get behind the wheel of this thing, take it on the road, and really see what this baby can do, because that is where the fun's at. So let's get to our challenges. All right, here we go. Let's start off with our first challenge right here. We've got the obstacle course. We've got the professional driver with us. Thank goodness. I would not be able to handle this myself, nor do I dare. We're going to be trying out a lot of the different driving modes. This thing has 6 different driving modes. We're going to see some of the, you know, low gear, 4-wheel drive in action, stuff like that. We're coming up on our first obstacle, the rolling mountains. Oh man, these are tall. Whoa, whoa, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. All right, we're traversing some pretty tall hills right here, but it's actually, I would say, pretty stable. He just switched on the, what's that? The rear axle differential lock, and that makes it to where if any wheels get popped up, they don't just spin out. It delivers the traction, it delivers the power to the effective wheel, the one that's still on the ground. So that made us able to roll through that real smoothly. He just put that differential lock on there. All right, so this next one, there's no road here. Oh my goodness, it's stairs. Woo! He's driving this thing right downstairs. Oh, okay. That's actually surprisingly smooth. If I close my eyes, I feel like I would not even be able to tell that we're on stairs. But you know, that's like the very strong suspension there. That is the shocks doing their work, really reducing all the bumps and the jolts. So it's really a smooth journey. That's also that differential lock there as well, because it's a very uneven, irregular surface. Make sure the effective tire wheel is getting that traction, that torque. 就要爬这个吗？对。这多少度啊？40. 40 degrees right here. This is the dreaded mini mountain. He's about to take this truck right up this thing. I'm a little nervous. I'm not gonna lie. This is extremely steep. I've never been in a vehicle going on this steep of a road, but here we go. Pray for me. Whoa, whoa. Oh my goodness, right up there just like that. Such like a smooth and consistent speed too. That is that low gear 4-wheel drive in effect. 480 Newton meters of torque, even at low speeds, just like that, low RPMs, it still delivers that constant power. Now, 这个还得下去啊。对。Oh, we got to go down it too. Oh my goodness, this is like a free roller coaster ride I'm getting right here. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, all right. That's pretty stable. Not a rush down or anything. That's strong brakes, strong power with all the torque right there as well. That was a surprisingly smooth ride right down that. You know, that's 40 degrees as well. And luckily, you know, when you come up to it, you also have good approach and departure angles. You're not gonna smash your bumper there. Pretty cool. So yeah, that power, 135 kilowatts of power, 480 maximum torque, even at low speeds like that. That was our low gear 4-wheel drive. Impressive. All right, so now we're coming up on these bumps right here. These are gonna pop our wheels up. So you got one wheel kind of popped up, uneven, but you got those rear and front axle differential locks in there. Also a very high powered suspension. It makes it a smooth ride. Okay, this is the teeter-totter. Whoa. All right, going up one side and then the other side, very uneven, but actually I'm still pretty stable in the center of the car here. That is that very strong suspension, making it to where your car, it's, you know, even if it got really bad, gonna flip your car over, tilt it over. This keeps us very centered, very level, that suspension there. Also, like I was saying, the differential locks, it's making sure that the tires, the wheels that are in effect, are getting, the wheels that have grip are getting the majority of the torque. They're getting the power there. Also, the strong, high strength steel body also makes it to where if we're going over a teeter-totter like that, uneven ground, it's not gonna warp our frame. It's not gonna mess our truck up. So that is very important as well. What is this? A seesaw? Or 跷跷板? 跷跷板. This is a seesaw for trucks? I've never seen something like this. Oh my goodness. Okay, so we're about to go up a seesaw for vehicles. All right. I think he's putting it in, yeah, he just put it in low gear 4-wheel drive because this is a steep angle right here. Ooh, all right. We got a good approach angle, 30-degree approach angle, so we're not scraping our bumper on that seesaw. And now we're up. We go past the fulcrum. Ooh, oh, don't go over the edge, please. Okay. Woo. And then, ooh, down just like that. That was like graceful, I would almost say. Just the way it went up there real smooth, parked right in place, perfectly stable. let the seesaw come down, and then we're right off of it. So the approach angle of 30 degrees. When we leave this seesaw, we also have the departure angle of 26 degrees, not gonna scrape our rear bumper. Oh my goodness. Back up the stairs. 又爬楼梯了。对，上。Oh goodness. Okay, now we're going up the stairs. Okay, so right here, this is where we also need that approach angle of 30 degrees. Let's do it. All right, so he's got it back in the low four-wheel drive, low gear four-wheel drive, and just up just like that. We've also got great ground clearance on this vehicle. It's raised up high off the ground, so you're not scraping on those stairs. That's also very important. Ooh, this is a rocky road. All right, this is a cobblestone path. I've been waiting for this one. And luckily here, because this is a pretty bumpy road and very irregular, a lot of ones where you can see right through the chassis, you can see what is around you and under you. You know exactly what's going on. You've got that consistent, sustained 480 Newton meter torque. Luckily, we've got high clearance. We've got that sustained torque at low speeds like this, getting us through nice and smooth. Even if we were to scrape the underbelly of our vehicle, the chassis, it's got 3mm metal armor on the chassis as well, protects the engine, the gearbox, the transmission, the fuel tank, and all that. And we just cruised out of there just like that. So I was looking at that, I'm like, this is gonna be a bumpy ride. I might puke, but it's got powerful, very powerful suspension. It's got great shocks. It really just diminished a lot of those bumps, those jolts there. And you know, like I was saying, the 6 different driving modes, all those different gears, sandy conditions, muddy conditions, rocky conditions like that as well. Muddy conditions, it gets you through all of it. So that was awesome. 辛苦了，师傅。This guy's so chill. He just took it like it was nothing. I guess he's used to it. All right, to the next one. All right, so we just made it through the obstacle course. We've been pretty successful so far, but the next challenge is, I would say, even more crazy. So I'm gonna show you guys where we're going. So for this next part, our next challenge, you see the top of those mountains over there. So we're still in the Wolf Tooth Mountain area. We're gonna get to the top of those mountains. We're taking this vehicle up some real deal nature trails, see how this thing actually performs in the real world. But to get there, we still have to make it through a lot of different obstacles on the way. We got to go through a river. We've got water, muddy trails, rocky roads, all that. So let's see how it performs. Let's do this. All right, here we go. The next adventure begins. All right, so. All right, here we go. We are starting out. So right here we are by this river, and we are going to make our way into the depths of this valley. And then from the valley, we're going to be encountering some muddy tracks there, some pretty tough paths. There's going to be a lot of water. And then once we get through that, we will start climbing the mountain. So we've got quite a few obstacles, quite a few challenges to get through here. As you can see here, right here, we're going to be moving over this little waterfall we got going here. So start wading through some water right now. This water is pretty shallow though. It gets some pretty splashing going on, but nothing too crazy in terms of depth. But that'll probably be a little different in a bit. Now we're coming around. So right now we're just kind of in our basic 2-wheel drive mode because, you know, flat ground like this, you really don't need 4-wheel drive. So this is when you're going to be, so you can have that much mileage, which is very impressive. And then in a bit, we're going to be getting into a little bit more tricky environments, stuff that is a little more difficult to get through. So we're going to be using our different driving modes. Like I said, this thing's got 6 different driving modes: sandy conditions, muddy conditions, snowy conditions. You've got 2-wheel drive, and you've got 4-wheel drive, both in high gear and low gear. All right, so we're going off the beaten path right now. We're going into a much more off-road scenario, and oh my goodness. Oh, all right. So he's taking us right into the water right here. We're no longer driving by the river. We're driving in the river. Okay, so this would be a good time for us to open up this 360-degree view, and you can see it's got the transparent chassis. So I can see all the rocks, the pebbles, the water underneath me as we drive over them. So you can see right through the chassis, you can see your surroundings, you can see exactly where we're driving. And I can tell that this is an extremely bumpy area, very uneven, very irregular, but the suspension on this vehicle is phenomenal. The shocks as well, so it's actually a pretty smooth ride. And we don't really have to worry too much about the depth of the water because we have this snorkel on the side of the truck as well, the water snorkel, so that is going to provide us with depths up to 70 centimeters. So we can go as deep as 70 centimeters and it is not going to mess up our engine. We are not going to be risking getting water into our engine. All right, so we're out of there. Now we're back on dry land. It's a bit bumpy, but nothing this vehicle can't handle. So this ground right here it's pretty dirty, a little sandy, but it's still pretty compact. It's not particularly loose soil, so it doesn't really require us to really redistribute the torque or use four-wheel drive or any of that. It's flat enough to where it's not going to pose much of a challenge to us. But when it does, this vehicle is able to automatically recognize different conditions because it has the smart part-time four-wheel drive, so it is able to recognize itself when the going gets tough, when the ground becomes a little more uneven, irregular, when you're getting a lot of potholes and bumps. It is able to switch between different driving modes, and it will also have a better, smarter distribution of power. So like here, we're getting into kind of a muddy area and you see it's very uneven. So there's kind of two aspects to this. You've got an uneven surface, so your tires are going to kind of be one up, one down, and then you also have loose soil. It's very muddy right here. So your wheels might also lose grip or lose traction. Luckily, the part-time four-wheel drive, it is able to redistribute that torque to the most effective tires, the ones that currently have the most grip. So you see here, look, we're like almost starting to ride like diagonally, but I'm actually still pretty centered in the vehicle because you have that very strong suspension that keeps the vehicle nice and even. You have the shocks that reduce a lot of the bumps, a lot of the jolts, and then you also have that consistent torque and that those rear and front axis differential locks that are distributing the torque nice and even throughout the vehicle. All right, so now we have arrived at a pretty steep slope right here. We've made it through some of the more challenging wet areas. We waded through the water. We had our snorkel right here, so even if we get into the water, we can go up to 70 centimeters of water and it's not going to pose a threat for our engine with entering water. But now we are here at the foot of the mountain and we are going up this thing. Oh man, this is a little nerve-wracking. Look at that. Wow, that is pretty steep. All right, so our driver has just thrown this baby into four-wheel drive. When we're going up pretty steep slopes like this, we're gonna need that four-wheel drive because we want that high amount of torque. Even if we're going, you see, we're not going particularly fast here because we need it stable. But this thing, even at slow speeds, like 1,500 RPMs, we still have an output, a maximum torque output of 480 Newton meters. So it's a continuous, steady flow of power that is just pushing us up this hill. So it's nice and smooth. We don't have to start and stop. And you see this ground very uneven. You can see the vehicle shaking. And like the ground is so uneven, you got potholes coming up right here. Get ready. Ooh. He's so chill, he doesn't even care. I guess he's been down this road a couple times. He's pretty familiar with this vehicle. Not worried at all. But you see those potholes, you could easily get stuck in there. You know, you got one wheel that's gone down, the other wheel pops up. It could potentially spin out. It's not getting grip, but luckily we've got front axis, rear axis differential locks that is going to make sure that the tire that has the grip, that is the effective tire, the wheel that is in contact with the ground, that is getting the most torque. And that's also a part of the part-time four-wheel drive system, that smart distribution of power.
So when you've got, you know, maybe if you're on a flat road, it doesn't matter. You just two-wheel drive and both wheels are doing about the same amount of work. But when it gets uneven like this, when it gets steep like this, your tires, your wheels are really fighting to grip the road, and one tire might be up, one tire might be down, so you need a system that is going to be able to distribute that power where it is most effectively used. And that's what the GWM POER 2.4T Off-Road Edition just does so beautifully and so efficiently. It's that smart distribution of power, that torque, and you know, the engine, you know, we got the 2.4 liter turbocharged diesel engine. This thing just, you know, packs a punch to begin with. You got 135 kilowatt power. So man, we're getting pretty high up here now. So we've already gotten pretty high up the mountain. We're going down some of these. So look at that, like we go up, then we go down, then we go up, and then we go down. But you see the speed at all times is very controlled. It's very steady. You don't feel start and stop. And our driver, he doesn't really have to mess with the gas pedal too much. He doesn't have to keep giving gas and less gas. It is able to, you know, even if you don't mess with the accelerator too much, the torque is still able to be provided at a very steady rate. So here we've evened out again, but we've got, I want to say this is maybe 20 or 30 degree climb coming up here. Also very uneven ground, and I'm seeing like, so I'm looking at the 360 degree view on here, and you can see the transparent chassis. You can see under the vehicle, and it's just all sorts of cobblestone rocks, just all sorts of gravel, very uneven, but the shocks are able to absorb so much of those bumps, so much of those jolts, that it really still makes for a pleasant driving experience. Like, at least I have not puked yet, so that says something. And like before, when we were down there and we had the muddy road, you know, you could tell like on the muddy terrain that some of those areas, like on the right side of the vehicle maybe, it's much looser soil, and you could be potentially worried about an uneven distribution of power, and you spin it out on the right side. But you have the smart distribution of power, and that kind of keeps you in a consistent and stable state. So right just there, we hit a couple more potholes, but not really a big deal. Like I said, the differential locks keeps the torque where it should be. And now we've come up here. So, and like when we were in that muddy terrain earlier, I mean, you can put it into mud terrain mode, and that's going to make it to where the vehicle is very aware of the challenges that muddy and loose soil, slippery soil will pose. All right, so it's been a little bit of a bumpy ride. Overall, pretty comfortable now. Pretty comfortable overall. And we got this one last slope right here. Climbing up, we've got the GWM flag, our GWM POER 2.4T Off-Road Edition is about to make it to the top of this mountain. And here we are. Top flag right there. Mission accomplished. High ball on the shirt floor. Our guy, proud of him. He brought us up here. Wasn't an easy job. Faced a lot of challenges on the way, but heck yeah. All right.
Man, how about that? We made it. I gotta say, at the beginning, I was a little doubtful. It was kind of a tough journey to get up here. Looking from the bottom, I was like, man, I don't know if we're gonna be able to get to the top of this mountain. But look, here we are. That is unbelievable. Simply amazing. We have conquered this mountain, drove all the way to the top. So, I mean, it was really an interesting journey coming over here. I mean, we began by driving through the water. So crossing that river was really a test of confidence, I would say, because at first, when I asked the driver, I'm like, are we planning to go through that stream, that river right there? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, is that a good idea? Like, I was kind of doubtful because you saw the water. It went up maybe like half the tire high right here. So I was thinking, like, you know, that deep in the water, you could be looking at a loss of traction, kind of a slippery terrain there, all sorts of rocks and stuff. So you really be facing a high potential for slippage, loss of grip, loss of traction. But we threw this baby in the mud mode. It really redistributed the power, the output of the traction and all that, and kept us going forward at a very steady, very stable pace. And then we got to the foot of the mountain, right? We made it past that muddy ground, that sandy ground where we had loose soil. We got there. with the sand mode, the mud mode, and then we get to the foot of the mountain, and now we start climbing. So this is where it really got interesting. And this was really, to me, a test of the stability of the vehicle and the comfort of the vehicle. Because you saw us going up that mountain, and there was tons of potholes, tons of crevices, craters where you're dipping in and out and the ground's up and down and you're like sideways, you're this and that. But this thing has got a awesome high-powered suspension. It's also got great shocks on it, shock absorbers. So although we're going through a very rough environment, I myself am not feeling rough at all. I made it all the way up here. I did not throw up. I hop out of this car. I do not even feel nauseous. So I'm feeling pretty comfortable, even in a not very comfortable environment. And you got to really also thank this engine. We got the GWM POER 2.4T Off-Road Edition. That engine is a 2.4 liter turbocharged diesel engine that gives us the power, 135 kilowatts, 480 newton meters of torque. That keeps us climbing up at a steady pace. And you know, when we're going up these mountain steep slopes, we're also really getting to try out that four-wheel drive. So we had the high speed, we also had the low speed. The low speed is crucial for maintaining a high amount of torque, even when our speeds are low and we're trying to keep the vehicle stable. So that was really cool. You also had the part-time four-wheel drive working there as well, kind of meeting any kind of challenge that we came upon along the way. So, you know, you had different elevations of ground, things that are very irregular that we're traversing, but that part-time four-wheel drive is able to intelligently distribute the power, the traction of the vehicle to give the torque to the wheels that are the effective wheels, the ones that have the grip. Because as we're going through this very irregular environment, you're coming across all sorts of ground that is, the environment's constantly changing. So 1 second your tires are on the ground, 1 second they're not. So that part-time four-wheel drive was also very instrumental in getting us here. High torque, a high amount of stability, and just, I'm very impressed overall with this vehicle to bring us all the way up here, see these awesome sights, top of the mountain. I am ecstatic about this, but this is just another one of our challenges, and we still got more challenges coming up. So I won't say any more. Let's get to it. We're on to the next part of our adventure. Let's keep this ball rolling. Let's see what else this truck has got in store for us. All right, so now we are beginning our descent. Oh my goodness. So this is about a 40-degree downhill slope right here. And I was getting ready, like bracing myself for a roller coaster ride down this thing. But you can see that it moves down really slowly. There's even an option on this vehicle for a slow downhill movement where it will control the vehicle's downhill speed. You don't even really have to mess with the brakes and the accelerator. Ooh, this one is, I think, even steeper than we were just on. This is luckily somewhat more flat ground though, but you can see very powerful brakes. I mean, this is a heavy truck, but even so, you have so much gravitational force pushing down on your vehicle, so much gravitational pressure, but this vehicle is able, and the brakes on it are able to slowly and steadily, gracefully descend the slope. So look at us right now, like this is at least 40 degrees worth of slope right here, at least a 40-degree angle, and we're going down real smooth like. So that also has to do, you know, with the power of the vehicle. And once you have that strength within the vehicle, if it's able to perform at that level, that makes it to where it's going to ensure a stability, a very stable ride. It's going to preserve that stability for you. And just coming off that slope, you know, it's pretty steep, but you have a 26-degree departure angle. So you're not going to smash your bumper coming off of that. And when you're approaching a slope like that, you have a 30-degree approach angle. So you're not going to be too worried about smashing up your front bumper either. So this vehicle also has a very good turning radius. So right here you've got winding mountain paths, but it's really able to make those cuts, make those turns. All right, going down again. So this ground right here is pretty sandy. I mean, the gravel, it's pretty loose. You got a lot of small stones, a lot of gravel. And see like that, this vehicle, it's working, it's pushing us up. And we're still in two-wheel drive right here. That was all two-wheel drive just going up that. So if it's not, like, even if it's, you know, somewhat steeper slopes, if it's not really steep, this thing can handle it in two-wheel drive as well, just normal gear. And so it also has, if the ground gets particularly sandy, if the soil gets particularly loose, there is also the sandy mode, or the sand mode, I guess you would call it. And that is going to really redistribute the torque and get the power where it needs to go. It's going to be very conscious of wheels that in loose soil, sinking down, losing grip, unable to kind of provide the propulsion that is needed to keep the car going forward. So in a sandy mode like that, it will be able to register, you know, what tires are sinking down, what tires are losing grip, where the traction is insufficient, and then it will deliver the power to the effective wheels to make sure that your vehicle has a stable, steady flow of power into it. All right, we're going back up again. It's kind of bumpy here. So you can see the ground, it's very crooked. It's very tilted. But we've got the front and rear axle differential locks, electronically controlled. Those are gonna make it to where the wheel that is in contact with the ground is going to be receiving the most torque, the most power. So even though we had unevenness, even though our vehicle is not on a completely flat surface, any unevenness that could cause a wheel to pop up, be suspended, unable to make contact with the ground, that effect and that potential stalling out of the vehicle will be circumvented by having this lock differential that makes it to where the torque is given to the wheel with the most grip. It's going to improve that traction. All right, so this road right here is a little bit smoother, still going downhill, but it's a much chiller environment right now. And so yeah, but this engine in general, you know, to be able to go through those, you know, water-like conditions, muddy conditions, sandy conditions, going up and down the mountain, you really need a lot of that power. 135 kilowatts of maximum power, 480 Newton meters of torque, and that is torque that is available even at low speeds. So if you put this thing in the four-wheel drive, whether it be high gear or low gear, you're gonna have a torque amplifier, especially in low gear. So if you're at low speeds, 1,500 RPMs, you have that torque amplifier. So even though your speed's not very high, you still have that torque that is put up to the max. And like we were going up the hills earlier, if we were to stop on a slope, we were to stop right there, park the car, and then continue, it can be difficult to start a vehicle when it is on a slope like that. So it has a hill start assist system. So when you start a vehicle, even on a slope, you have all of that gravity working against you. You're starting out on a low gear, a low speed, but it provides an ample amount of torque. So that way you will seamlessly start your vehicle and go up the slope, even if you're starting right at the middle of it. So you have all that gravity working against you, but it is still able to seamlessly start the vehicle, provide that torque right out the gate, provide that power right out the gate to push you up the mountain, push you up those steep slopes right out from the start. All right, so back down from the mountain, feeling good. Not bad. So we took this thing to the obstacle course, man-made, took a look at some of its more extreme conditions that you could see it in, and then we took it out into the real world. We took it out into nature. We took it through the mountain paths, up the mountain, through rivers, through water, over all sorts of gravel, stones, uneven surfaces, all that. It performed like a charm. right, so we conquered the mountain, we conquered the obstacle course, and now we're on to our third and final challenge. We are in an area with not as much altitude, but we are going to be going through a crazy variety of different terrain, water, muddy roads, sandy roads, all that. So we're really going to be putting this thing to the test in terms of how it conquers all sorts of different surfaces, terrains, and environments. So let's do it. Let's see what it's got. All right, here we go. So in this area, we're going to be facing a lot of different kind of terrain. So right here, we're in a more sandy area. We're near the riverbank. So right here, since we've got 6 different driving modes, we could activate our sand mode. Now you got loose soil here. You have the potential of your wheels just sinking down into that soft sand, getting bogged down. It's going to be a problem for your traction. So that sand mode is really going to help you here. It's going to give you that torque and that power and that stability. And it's going to kind of redistribute the power and the traction to the wheels that need it, the effective wheels. All right, we're really moving now. All right, so we just went over some kind of ditches right there. I don't want to call them potholes. They weren't really that deep, not like craters or anything, but you can see it gets a little bumpy. Luckily, we've got really good suspension in this vehicle, really good shock absorbers. It's not too big of a problem. And see right there, you had some pretty big craters. Luckily, we dodged that, but you see here, the ground is still very uneven. So this might be a case where we want to use that front axle differential lock or the rear axle differential lock. Oh, like that. See that? We're dropping down, getting uneven. But luckily, vehicle, good suspension, keeping us nice and centered. Also, a very strong steel frame as well to prevent warping. All right, so now this is exciting. Now we're getting into the water. I gotta say, I'm a little nervous. Some of this water around here does look pretty deep. For the most part, we've been staying in more of the sandy area where we can kind of really utilize our sand mode. And a little bit though, some of these areas around, especially around the water, will get pretty muddy. So we'll also get to kind of see how our mud mode works as well. So you see here with the bumps and stuff like that, especially if we are on an inclination, turn sideways, that lock differential is going to be important in delivering the traction to the wheel that is not spinning out propped up. But here we go, water right here. Okay, we're dipping in the water. This water is pretty deep. I just saw the water splashing up onto the hood like that. That is pretty crazy. But luckily, this vehicle can actually go pretty deep into the water. This vehicle can go 700 millimeters or 70 centimeters. So we can go 0.7 meters deep into the water because we have this water weighting snorkel right here. So the water weighting system means that the engine, the chassis, transmission, stuff like that, it is waterproof, sealed up, so you don't have to risk getting water into your engine, because everybody knows water in the engine, that is bad news. And then right up here, oh my goodness, it's pretty cold out here. We're out here in the winter, so you can see we got ice on this water as well. You can kind of hear that as the tire goes into it. It just kind of drags through the ice and breaks through it. So it's definitely, you've got all sorts of different ground here that we're working with: sand, mud, ice, water. So this is really an area where you kind of get to see the performance of how this vehicle deals with a variety of very diverse terrain. All right, going back up here. So you see that? It just climbs up slopes like that. And that is just, we're in the, this is the 4-wheel drive high gear. So you see we still got a lot of mobility, still moving pretty quick, but we've got that 4-wheel drive going. So we got a lot of good grip and traction on the ground. It's going to provide us a lot of stability. Even, you know, if our front wheels or our back wheels are not touching, you're still getting power through the vehicle and endless flow. So this pond right up here in front of us, we have got a lot of ice on this thing. And now I kind of want to see how the vehicle performs here. Woo! Very nice. got a little bumpy there, but very cool. So this thing just dips right into the water like that, and you've got all that ice. So this could potentially be a scenario where you could even use the snow mode, because I was talking about 6 different driving modes. This is an area you got ice on the ground, on the water as well. This could be a good situation to pop out the snow mode as well. And then you see when we're wading through this water, you have a lot of these rocks and stuff, a lot of debris, a lot of just uneven surfaces, jagged stuff that could really kind of beat up the bottom of your vehicle. But the good thing about the GWM POER 2.4T Off-Road Edition is that, one, you've got high ground clearance. So we're raised up pretty high above the stuff underneath us. And even if we were to be scraped by anything jagged underneath, rocks, stuff like that, rugged environments, we also have a 3mm thick metal armor that surrounds the chassis. So that's protecting your engine, that's protecting your transmission, your fuel tank, all that stuff. So that's going to give you an extra layer of protection. Even if the going really gets rough, you've got sharp stuff, jagged stuff underneath you. I mean, like, look at what we got here. We got all these rocks. We're dipping into the water, dipping into the stream here, and there could really be anything in that water. But what's interesting is also when we dip into the water like this, we can hit that 360-degree camera where we can see all around our vehicle, maximum awareness. And the coolest part is it has the transparent chassis as well. So you can see right through this chassis right here, you can see what exactly is right underneath the vehicle, and you can be very aware of what kind of terrain you are traversing. So right here, we're back in a more sandy area. This area is pretty flat, pretty chill. Not a whole lot of uneven surfaces going on, but that looks like that's about to change right now. Luckily, we've got the part-time 4-wheel driving system, so that can automatically adapt to our environment and our terrain as it changes. So we go from flat, we go to rough and bumpy. Now we're going through the water again. We're going over ice and snow right now. So it's the environment, the terrain is literally changing by the second. Literally changing by the second, I kid you not. So we got that part-time 4-wheel drive. It's able to adapt to those automatically and intelligently redistribute the power, the torque all throughout the wheelbase, the tires, and all that. So that way you're constantly getting traction and constantly getting a constant and stable output of power, so you can keep chugging along. There's no start and stop. There's no stalling out. You see, we've been keeping a pretty constant pace and just moving real steady through this. So the environment itself is not steady. Very variable, very inconsistent, all sorts of stuff, very diverse, a real variety. But even though the external environment is constantly changing, I mean by the second, your driving experience stays consistent, especially the comfort level of it as well. You've got great suspension, you've got shocks, you know, that are absorbing a lot of those jolts, a lot of those bumps and stuff like that. So that is also the seats as well in here are pretty darn comfortable. So even though you're going through real rough, real rugged, bumpy kind of terrain, your experience is still very smooth. It's a very comfortable experience. So you see right there, we had something scraping a little bit. We had like a branch or something that was under the vehicle, because there's really just all kinds of stuff out here scraping underneath the vehicle. But luckily we got that 3mm metal armor on the chassis, on the underbelly of our vehicle. That is giving us full protection coverage for our engine, our transmission, our fuel tank, all of those really important parts to our vehicle. Woo-hoo. All right, so you see how the ground is getting really uneven, really bumpy. You got potholes, you got crevices, you're slipping into all sorts of places. Oh my goodness, we're going through the ice and snow again. Luckily, even though our wheels are, you know, going up, going down, going up, going down, we got things like the front axle, rear axle, electronically controlled differential locks. These things are making sure that even if one of our tires pops up, even if one of our tires, you know, in whatever kind of terrain we're in, loses grip, loses its traction, it becomes ineffective. Maybe it's really popped up, it's just spinning out there. All the power, all that torque goes to the other wheel that is in contact with the ground, the effective wheel, and that is going to keep propelling us forward, keep our pace constant. That one wheel loses grip, no problem, send the power straight to the other wheel. It keeps us going automatically just like nothing happened. So that's also part of the beauty of the part-time four-wheel drive system, is that it can automatically control for a lot of those variables and automatically negate, counteract, neutralize a lot of those variables that are really going to pose a challenge to the stability and the consistency of your driving experience. All right, so here we come up on some of this ice and snow again. We go first to the ice and snow, then we dip into the water of the stream. I love the diversity of the terrain here. I mean, you're really throwing all of the options at the truck. The GWM POER 2.4T Off-Road Edition, you're really throwing pretty much every type of terrain you can imagine. So, and we're also getting a chance to look at all of our 6 different driving modes. So we got snow mode that we can use here with the snowy ground and the ice. We got mud mode when we're driving through this water and this muddy ground. And when we hit the riverbanks, we're also using the sand mode. So in environments like this, sandy, muddy, snowy, woohoo! Look at that splash, and I love that. The water's shooting up from the sides, but it doesn't affect our vehicle whatsoever. But yeah, all these different terrains, I mean, you're facing the potential for slippage of your tires as your tires go over, you know, muddy conditions. They could slip, they could spin out. Sand, it could get bogged down in the sand as it sinks in there. Snow can also be very, very slippery if you guys live in a place where it snows. I know I live in Beijing, it snows sometimes. Man, you gotta really walk slow because that stuff is slippery. But when you use these driving modes, snowy, sandy, muddy, it is going to control for that slippage, control for that loss of grip, and it's going to intelligently distribute the power, the output of the torque of your vehicle and the engine to the tires that are going to most efficiently and effectively use that power. The tires that have the most grip, that are in the best position to keep propelling our vehicle forward. So here we go back. So we were just through some snow, through some mud, through some water. Now we're back more in a sandy condition here. Also a lot of rocks as well. These rocks get pretty jagged, but luckily we got a high ground clearance. We also have that chassis 3mm full body armor that's going to provide a lot of protection for us as well. All right, now it's smoothing out a little bit. So it's really funny, this challenge area that we've got here. It's smooth for a second, and then bam, you're back in the rocks again. You're back in the potholes. You're back in the up and down. You see we're bouncing around a little bit. But even though we're bouncing, it really does keep it. Woo! Look at that splashing. Even though we're bouncing around, it does mitigate a lot of the shocks and jolts. So you get a little bit of a bounce, but it's still comfortable from the suspension and shock absorbers. This part's deep right here. 这个大概多少厘米你觉得？
对，60到70。
Right, so right there, like our driver said, we just went through 60 to 70 meters worth of depth of water. That is deep water. That is over half a meter of water that we are dipping into. But you see, our driver, he's so chill. He's not phased at all. He's not even worried. He just cruises right through it, no hesitation. And part of that is because of the water weighting system. So our engine and a lot of the different parts that we have under the hood of the vehicle, they are sealed, water sealed. So even if you dip in a little bit, that water is not going to penetrate your engine. You see how we have the water snorkel up here on the side of the vehicle as well. That means that we can get air intake from that high up on the vehicle into the engine, so we don't have to worry about water penetrating our engine. We can go pretty deep. Like I was talking, we can go 70 centimeters deep, and we still are not having to worry about water penetrating our engine. We're not having to worry about leakage, because you know, everybody knows that water in the engine is not good news. So that's going to be very crucial, especially if you're wanting to drive through streams, drive through rivers. That water weighting system is going to provide crucial protection to the overall vehicle and its engine, its transmission, and all that. So wow. We just took a cruise through all of that. all that different kind of terrain. We got to see its snow function, its mud function, its sand function. We got to see high gear 4-wheel drive. We didn't get a whole lot of low gear 4-wheel drive because that was more of a mountain environment kind of scenario for us, but we got to see a lot of the other driving modes, 6 driving modes, and it really carried us smoothly through a place that was not smooth at all. So a rough environment, rough terrain, but not a rough ride. Completely comfortable. I'm not sick at all, not even feeling nauseous. No puking, that's good news. But yeah, awesome job. 太棒了，师傅，厉害。Congrats to that guy too. Hats off to him. Good driver. All right.
Woo! All right, so we made it through all 3 of our challenges. I myself am very impressed with the performance we saw today from our GWM POER 2.4T Off-Road Edition. I think it did a great job. But to finish up here, I also want to answer some of the questions that we have gotten from some of our followers. I think there's some pretty good questions, can give us some insight into some of the specifics of the vehicle. So the first question we've got is from Mr. Zhang asking, what are the advantages of the 4-wheel drive system and the GWM POER 2.4T? So the 4-wheel drive system here, you have the part-time 4-wheel drive system. So this is an intelligent system that can automatically adapt to the environment around it, can intelligently adjust the driving mode. So if you're going through different kinds of terrain and the terrain is changing rapidly, the vehicle is able to redistribute torque, traction, power throughout the base of the vehicle and the wheels here. So that is going to be a big deal. You can also manually adjust your driving modes as well. You've got sand, mud, snow mode. You've got the 4-wheel drive both in high gear and low gear, and you also have 2-wheel drive as well for more basic, easy situations. That's going to give you really good fuel efficiency as well. So the next question is, how is the power performance of the GWM POER 2.4T? So we were looking at this earlier when it comes to the power, the raw power of this vehicle. We took a look under the hood and we saw that engine. So we have a 2.4 liter turbocharged diesel engine under the hood here. That is going to give you 135 kilowatts of power. That is also going to provide you with 480 Newton meters of torque as well. That is really going to pack a punch. So our next question, how is the driving experience in the GWM POER 2.4T? So like I was talking about before, we had the part-time 4-wheel drive system. That's really going to save you a lot of trouble by the truck being able to itself intelligently adapt to a lot of different scenarios. You've also got great suspension. You've got great shocks as well. So that's going to reduce a lot of the turbulence that you might encounter, especially in off-road conditions. The ground can be really rough. The terrain can be rough, but your ride is not going to be rough. You're going to be having a pretty smooth, pretty comfortable experience. At least me, this whole day, all these challenges, I have not thrown up yet, so that speaks to something. Our next question, what safety features does the GWM POER 2.4T have? So, safety features, we've got quite a few here. I talked about before the ESP system, so that's going to provide you a lot of stability with the chassis. We looked at the full metal front and rear bumpers earlier. That is a lot of protection for your vehicle as well. There's also a lot of the more technology-oriented features. So we've got cameras all around the vehicle. You can get a 360-degree view. You've got that transparent chassis mode where you can see under the vehicle. You've got sensors all around. You've got reverse cameras. So that's really going to provide you a lot of awareness when you are driving or when you're parking or when you're in a whole host of complex situations. That's going to give you peace of mind and assurance as well. All right, so the interior, what are the highlights of the interior design of the GWM POER 2.4T? Okay, so here
I've been riding in this thing all day. I gotta say, high quality materials go into the interior design of this thing. I've been sitting in that seat, and you know, a lot of pickup trucks, they might sacrifice some comfort just for the sake of utility, but I've been sitting in that seat like all day today, and I've been feeling pretty comfortable. I could go on a ride in this thing for long distances, and it also has a multi-adjustable function to it, so you can be leaning back, putting your seat back and forward, all electronic, and good air conditioning system, seat warmers as well. You've got that central control panel where you got navigation. You can be watching TV shows if you're parked, listening to music. You can really control the entire ecosystem of the vehicle like that. Also the steering wheel, it's also got a lot of cool functions on it as well. So our last question, what smart technology features does the GWM POER 2.4T offer? So like I was talking about before, central modem, you've got a really smart navigation system. You've got that 360-degree camera view. You've got sensors as well. You have the part-time four-wheel driving system. So that is a lot of intelligent tech that is really going to save you a lot of trouble when you yourself are driving, especially long distances. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up our questions. Lastly, I would just like to thank you guys for watching. You've been with us on our GWM video. We've been looking at the GWM POER 2.4T Off-Road Edition. And let me just say, I've taken this thing through several challenges today, and I've got to say, this is a powerhouse of a pickup truck. This thing packs a punch, great engine, great power. You've also got the four-wheel drive, a real smart system. It enables you to conquer all sorts of different kinds of terrain, all sorts of different environments. And aside from that, it is also just a good all-around vehicle as well. Very comfortable, a lot of very nice ergonomic features. Even if you were just driving through the city and using it in your hometown, it would be a great ride in that aspect as well. So whether you're a off-road enthusiast or whether you just need a car for a vehicle for your day-to-day, I think the GWM POER 2.4T Off-Road Edition lives up to all those standards. So thank you guys for joining me today for this video. If you guys have any questions or if there's anything you're curious about or you'd like to know about in more detail, make sure to follow us on Facebook, send us a like, send us a message, get in contact with us, and we will fill you in on any questions or any qualms you might have. And yeah, that pretty much wraps it up for today. Make sure to join us on our next live stream. I'm sure I'll be seeing you guys again real soon. Thanks for watching, and keep adventuring, keep having fun, keep driving, keep off-roading, and just keep doing your thing, guys. Thanks.
GWM, go with more.